Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. This video provides all the drama you've been missing in the off-season. Stick around, get cozy, get your popcorn, your tea, your hazelnut iced coffee with a splash of coconut and a little bit of agave. Whatever you need to do, get ready for it. Nick says that Blake was exposed as an F-boy, and we're going to break this whole situation down. Now, if you're watching my channel, you're on the back end of the human centipede. We've got Blake who commented. Now, stick around because we're going to get through all of this. There's a full timeline. Their feud has gone back a long time now. We'll show the receipts there, but we've got the full timeline here. Blake telling people, hey, don't mess with anyone on Bachelor in Paradise if they are a company man. As in, don't mess with anybody that has a Bachelor podcast because you're more expendable than they are. That's like saying to someone when they start a new job, hey, don't mess with the boss's daughter because when it comes down to it, she's not getting fired. You are, right? So that's what Blake's point was. Natasha goes, how dare he insinuate that I'm, what she goes off, completely misrepresenting what he's saying. So I'm going to be your sort of a Bachelor in Paradise shaman right now and lead you through this story so we can get to the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
But I feel like we can handle the truth. Now, Nick comments on it, and he sort of gets some of it right in my eyes, and then in my eyes, he also kind of keeps assuming things that Blake was saying and doing in a way that calls Blake out. Let's get into it. At DNeals on Instagram if you want to follow me, and also patreon.com/Dave Neal. I will be posting as soon as this video is over, my full stand-up set from yesterday's show in Santa Barbara. I did the show in front of a couple hundred people. 150. I'm not Trump. I'm not going to lie. There was 6 million people in the audience. It was the best stand-up show you've ever seen. I did this set there. It'll be on my Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. At the end of this video, if there's time, I'll play you a quick clip of that. So anyway, let's get into it. Here's Nick's producers explaining to him what went down with the story. And it's very important that and I'm not accusing the producers of having any bias here, but I do feel like, from my own watching of this, that the producers are already kind of goading Nick to slam Blake. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm looking at this from a side where I do believe Blake offered good advice to people. I don't think he did it with any bad intent. I don't think he was like bitter when he offered the advice. He got hosed by the show, and he's just warning people not to have the same happen to them.
The only advice I gave them was to be careful of the official Bachelor podcast hosts if they are down there.
This is what Blake said.
BBC employees and will always get a good edit.
True.
So don't go against them or date someone they have their eyes on. I think they should not allow these people on the beach after last season. And I love all those people that went down there. But it's a huge slap in the face for the audience. Like, they think we are that dumb?
The audience. I love how his biggest concern is the authenticity of the audience.
Well, now, that would probably be my biggest concern if I had happened to me what happened to Blake, which was he went and slept with 2 women on back-to-back nights at Stagecoach in April before going on the show. Consensually speaking, actually, when you show it, Kaylin actually sort of demanded she go to Blake's place. He was saying, please don't come. And she's like, I'm on my way. He's like, we're not having sex. She's like, you better bet my bottom dollar we are. I already bought the KY his and hers. You know what I mean? We're doing it. So then he had to respond. I never ghosted Kaylin. I never called her a mistake, and I absolutely never, ever, ever silenced Kaylin. So this was at the height of the Me Too movement, where he was accused of silencing a woman after having sex and disposing of their relationship in a way where he ghosted on her. So he was accused of all these different things. An audience that's mostly women, 92% of the Bachelor audience is women, at least in my demographic, was so upset at Blake at what they saw. When Blake shared the text messages, slowly but surely, many people took Blake's side. I would estimate that now about 90% of people think Blake was the one who was wronged because of the misinterpretation in a heavy topic. A heavy topic, not just during the Me Too movement, but in general. And he says, I felt a lot of shame. I've been in a dark place. All these things happened to him. And then, of course, he said, the last thing I want to do, but my name and character are being attacked. My name is all I have. Most of all, it is the only way, the real way to prove that what is being said by Kaylin in the story that is being shown is far from the truth. I'm deeply sorry for my actions at Stagecoach. You shouldn't be sorry for having sex with someone consensually at Stagecoach. Anyway, so the point is, her trauma was sort of passed on to him, and she's talked about her past issues, her past experiences, which everyone can feel for, but understand that in the current situation with Blake, it was mischaracterized what was actually done, and he was soft Me Too'd. That's what it was. We think we all agree on that. So that's where he's coming from when he's saying, hey, just so you know, they're not going to have your best intentions, right? All right, so back to the story.
Does anyone think The Bachelor is a documentary? Real question.
Well, yes. Not so much a documentary, but a lot of people believe what they see on TV is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And not everyone gets to see it through the perspective and the lens of people that are really understanding what's going on in the back. So that was a rhetorical question you're asking, but I do believe most people, if you're given a bad edit, will then see you as a bad person.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Is that what he's thinking? Like people think it's not fake?
I don't know.
It feels like he's alluding to other things without being very specific. Like he's taking jabs of, if you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, I'm going to still keep that to myself.
I actually think he's
disagree.
being earnest about this particular topic. Where it's like a gotcha moment.
Okay.
Where I feel like he's revealing something that he thinks other people aren't aware of.
And most people aren't. Most people are not aware of the behind-the-scenes dealings of the show.
So just to recap, we got the happy hour. We got
the official
Talking It Out,
Bachelor podcast.
Yeah, they're in those
Clickbait,
podcasts that they work for Warner Brothers. Those podcasts
ABC,
are owned by Warner Brothers. The producers also work on the show, produce.
Is his microphone sounding a little tinny? I'm hearing a little bit of a tinny metallic sound.
And more people would tune into their shows.
I mean, that's the theory. Do I think, if you were to ask me, do people who work on that show who happen to go on Paradise are the beneficiaries of special consideration? Sure, of course.
Yeah.
All right, game over. Well, that's all we needed to know. That was Blake's point.
End of the day.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing that I'm failing to understand.
So he's saying if you're there, that the people that work for the show, the company men, are going to be treated in a different way. Doesn't mean that they won't burn the bridges and burn them, but given the chance, they'd rather burn somebody who's not on the company dollar.
My biggest response to this is I don't really understand why Blake continues to call this stuff out, because it's not the first time he has done this. I understand he has some frustrations with the show, but I just don't really
Blake, when it comes down to it, is championing mental health issues because he really suffered after this. Somebody's gonna self-harm. Somebody's gonna do something that is irreversible because of a mischaracterization of who they are. And hopefully enough people realize that, hey, let's not take this too seriously. But the producers do fly too close to the sun. They do that.
Assume he's doing it for clickbait, or he always gets attention. Not the podcast. Yeah. I think he said it on.
That's a nice
did he say it on Instagram or his podcast?
This was on his Instagram story, okay. And then he
does always get press when he does.
Then continued it because Game of Roses, which is not one of the official podcasts but a Bachelor podcast, posted on Instagram, and then he decided to comment on Game of Roses' post that Natasha was, quote, given a rose by production.
True.
To which I'm like, yeah, we all saw that.
Well, but that's his point. When people are saying, when Natasha's saying, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you were given a rose by production. That's never happened before. That's against the rules of the game, people would say.
I don't know.
Natasha responded. Because she's now been dragged into this by name of someone, who's worked with the franchise. And
he also said he liked Natasha, but he was using her as an example.
Her own Instagram stories and said, I do not agree with what Blake said because my situation specifically, and yes, I am sensitive about it because it happened to me. So by saying that I'm going to get a good edit because I have a podcast, clickbait, you could get a bad edit if you mess with me, and to be careful of me, you're basically villainizing me because I have a podcast instead of holding the toxic people accountable. That's where I have a problem. No, if you're taking what Blake is saying and you're rallying behind it, you're basically excusing toxic behavior.
And as we know, whenever someone says, when you basically do X, Y, and Z, they're going to conflate what you're saying to fit their narrative. We know this. I love Natasha. But by saying, well, basically you're doing this, dangerous place to be, that's not what Blake's doing at all.
And them about the toxic behaviors that people can have. Oh, because you yourself had toxic behavior on the beach when you were there.
Now, I wouldn't say that Blake had toxic behavior. I would say that he had consensual sex with 2 different women in Stagecoach before going on Bachelor in Paradise. They can work that out on the beach, but her story didn't line up with the text message he then shared.
For you, Kathy.
Yeah.
What is your lasting impression of Blake from his time?
Now, this is interesting.
I mean,
because it's a great question by Nick, because what he's trying to say is not, do you remember something differently than what actually happened?
if I could sum it up in three words.
Just like what you think the average audience thinks of Blake.
Stagecoach. I don't know. I mean, like, he's...
So Blake spent the last several years fighting his edit and showing his following that he's a decent guy, that he's not a toxic guy. That doesn't mean he's not like consensually having sex with people outside of marriage. But for all purposes, we've seen him be a good guy. So his lasting impression of the show involved him sharing text messages that were very damaging, very tough to share, to defend his character. So anytime you have to go on a show and then you have to defend your character with like a lot of work, I think the lasting impression speaks for itself that he was decimated from this.
I don't have anything really ill to say against him. I feel like he was very young and maybe hadn't developed a full emotional intelligence at the point that he went into this situation. Like we've talked about on past episodes.
Why do I feel like Blake Horstmann's lawyer at this? I'm like, objection! He
went into paradise thinking that would carry over.
Yep.
I don't know Blake. He's not on my payroll.
In between those two shows that made him not just come off really bad, but were really bad.
Yeah.
What was really bad about what Blake did?
Is generally like Bachelor Nations, the people who watched his Paradise season a few years ago, is that he's a fuckboy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. You know, I guess if you have a problem with fuckboys, but a lot of people are fuck.
I think if this was, and I'm okay with the F-boy terminology, I am, you know, when you're single, be whatever you want. Or, you know, consensually, right? With that said, I wonder if the roles were, I don't like to play this card often, here we go, but I wonder if the roles were reversed, and if it was a female who had consensual sex with two different former Bachelorette contestants, two men, and then went on the Paradise looking for love. I think Cassidy from this season, when she had a friend with benefit back at home while she was dating Clayton, said, hey, I'm going to go back to my friend with benefit if we're not together. All right. So like, that's just the world I'm going to live in 2022, right? This world where we're sex positive, where it's like, do what you want with your body. And you might disagree with it, but somebody can do what they want with their body and then decide that they're going to fall in love and then not, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's very archaic to think that if someone's having casual sex that they can't then find love.
Boys these days. It's just a general term. And to your point, like, yes, he got what I referred and have told him.
And we forget that also on Bachelorette, on Becca Kufrin's season, he was left at the altar. He was heartbroken. I think he's earned the right to not dive back into relationships.
That he got the Ben Higgins edit, and he had no problem.
All right, so I'm just going to talk over this for a minute. So what Nick's saying is that Blake got the Ben Higgins edit, which was a great edit, and then he profited off of that edit, and then when the edit was bad, he had to deal with that equity being taken away. And I understand the idea about that. You're being commodified, but when you profit off of the edit, it's different having your character boosted up versus torn down. You're affecting someone's livelihood moving forward. You're affecting the way people think of them. They have to explain this to their family. It's way more toxic.
Sweet and thoughtful guy, and he got exposed as being a fuckboy. I have no doubt that Blake...
And we don't know. Is that... I mean, I guess that's an F-boy. I guess having consensual sex 2 nights in a row, even though the second night was someone who came over to your place against your will. We saw the text messages. So it's like, are we really going to use that against him?
Feels like when he watched his season, he saw things that he thought to himself, I didn't say it like that. That's out of context.
All right, let's jump a little bit.
Oh, short shelf lives, and social media has allowed us to, some of us, to extend that, use the platforms we get from the show, and make our own thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
which is also what he's doing as well with DJing.
Exactly. So the guy's having some success DJing. So why not focus on that?
So the idea of why not focus on DJing, I think Nick would agree that by having these conversations that Blake's having, he's helping his DJ career. You know, it's like the wrestler has to hype up you need to be promoting all the time. Your DJ career is built on the backs of having followers. So, and part of building Blake's equity is him warning people and dabbling in Bachelor Nation. That's why Tammy, even though she said she was going to quit Bachelor Nation, ended up not quitting it, because we've all wanted to quit from our employers, but if there's still water in the well, then draw from that. And that's exactly what Blake's doing. I think we can all agree that by continuing to talk about Bachelor, he's continuing to stay relevant when it's very hard to do that.
And they're all up there in their comments being like, you're the best. You should have been the lead. You should have been the Bachelor. You should have been the Bachelorette. And
So let's just jump because we're running out of time here. You can watch that full video on Nick's podcast, of course. And and I go, did Nick and Blake actually have a feud? And sure enough, August 24th, I made this video about Bachelor in Paradise drama spills over to Nick. So here's Nick and Blake. Nick sent out a PSA after Blake was being compared to other F-boys like Brendan's and say like, oh, be careful, like, be careful out there. So here's Blake liking tweets that were negative towards Nick. I mean, this feud's not going to end here. There's no way Blake's not going to respond. Up in a second. But here's where it's getting a little heated because now we're kind of bringing in Nick's current relationship, and I don't know where that belongs, but Reddit title, Blake Horstmann's Twitter likes about Nick. Wonder what the tea is about Nick's girlfriend. So these are the likes. Of course, people, you guys are just all animals out there liking all these things. So Blake liked replies to Nick. Nick, you're a bigger douche than either of them. Leave them be. Blake liked that. Hearing how you began your relationship, speaking to Nick, confirmed for anyone why you shouldn't be calling out anyone else. Googly eyes. You've always hated on Blake when you've proven you're not better. Focus on yourself. Blake liked that. LOL. Nick, at least Blake's not dating 22-year-old girls. So it goes on and on.
These
weren't being dissected by Nick. So it goes on and on. I mean, this is I would say one of the bigger Bachelor beefs that is existing right now. Like I promised, I guess I'll share with you guys just a 10-second clip of my stand-up set. You know, most stand-up sets are probably 70% material, 30% playing with the crowd. And because this crowd was quite big, let me see if I can show you guys an Instagram story of the crowd. Big in the sense that it was like spread out. Whenever you do an outdoor show, there's a lot of you need to really tie everyone together. So here was the crowd last night, kind of spread out, but a big outdoor show, about 150 people is, wrapped around the corner here. So the idea with that is that you want to just like make sure to talk to individual pockets of people. So I was tying in the previous comedian set with mine right here.
That Channing just picked a fight with New York City from Santa Barbara. What a bitch. Come back to New York and say that shit. I moved from New York to the West Coast, and everyone's always like, we got some New Yorkers. Where were you during his set? Never forget! Come on! We forgot. We don't want to fuck with that guy. He's got a knife on him.
All right, so you can go check out that full set on patreon.com/Dave Neal. Let me know what you think of Nick's reaction to the Blake Natasha feud. I think Nick agrees with Blake's point. I think everything else that was added on after that was just like their own beef, but I think he agreed with his point that, yeah, if you work on the show, you're going to be treated better. That's all Blake was saying, and I don't see a bigger story there. Let me know what you think. We're going to be going live at 10 a.m. Pacific time right after this, patreon.com/Dave Neal. And also covering the Johnny Depp Amber Heard story at Dave Neal Show. Go check it out over there. Bye, everybody.